Hello everyone, Ruby Ravel here, and today I want to talk to you about monsters. I'm feeling pretty monstrous myself, as I've just had a giant pizza, but I want to talk specifically about the monsters that appear in your dreams. Now, a couple of you in the comments section suggested that I do more videos on dream analysis and dream interpretation, and as earlier this week I had a dream involving a giant monster, I thought this would serve as an ample opportunity to discuss one of my favorite subjects. I love monsters as symbols, as myths, sometimes just purely as grotesque works of art. One of my favorite subjects to study outside of astrology and psychology and esoteric in general is cryptozoology. Love it, can't get enough of it. But like I said, this is exploring the monsters that come to you in the middle of the night when you're sleeping. That's not to say that Mothman or Sasquatch might not crawl into your bed when you're sleeping and give you a nice cryptozoological snuggle. So perhaps to clarify, I mean dream monsters. In the dream that prompted this video, I was walking back home late at night with a friend. Hey honey, want to come back to my place? And we rounded the corner onto the street where we live. And in the distance, I instantly spotted this huge monster. It looked like a cross between Swamp Thing and the creature from the Black Lagoon, only it was about 100 feet tall. And I say that from someone who has no precision in mathematical quantification whatsoever, but this was a big old monster. From where we were stood, the monster must have been several miles away, and yet it was still clearly walking in our direction and looked like it would be upon us in at least a few hours or so. And just the whole time it was striding in this very purposeful, very determined, very ominous manner. And you could just see the shadowy outlines of its behemothric form and these pulsating, glowing red eyes looking eldritchly into the future, shall we say. In spite of the imminent approach of this gargantuan creature, neither my friend or I seemed to be particularly concerned. We were quite blasé about it all. We'd read somewhere in a newspaper that it was coming. We knew it was coming this way. There was a good chance it would hit the house that I was about to show my friend around, and we just carried on with it. I even remember thinking vaguely at the time, so long as I'm out of the house before the monster arrives, I don't particularly care if it comes along and smashes the whole thing to smithereens. There was also a sense in the dream that I wasn't entirely certain whether the monster was genuinely flesh and blood and therefore capable of destroying my property, or whether it was actually just some kind of massive hologram, some massive projection, which on coming closer would be proven to be ephemeral. The dream did not carry on long enough for me to find out. It was actually during an episode of insomnia. But in general, giant monsters in dreams represent the larger terrifying forces in our lives. Things that are so huge, so gargantuan, which tower above us in such a menacing way that we can't necessarily properly digest it or do something about it. You know, it's like an ant, a single ant trying to take on a human being. The scale is so different that there are some things that we just cannot tackle alone. And very often these monsters do tend to occur during Pluto transits. Therefore, being Plutonic symbols, monsters are also symbols of impending transformation, impending change on a large scale, often change that necessitates facing one's fears, some kind of destruction, some kind of loss, some kind of irreversible metamorphosis of the self. Now, if I'm dreaming about these things, surely that must be playing out in my life in some way, and especially if I'm seeing the monster approaching towards me, and I can see it clearly coming towards me within a given approximate time frame, there must also be some transformation that I can see coming towards me as well. A transformation some of you may have figured out. Well, one thing, this lovely flat Victorian house where I'm living now, sadly, I will be moving out here at the end of the month. Still don't have a definite place to go after that, so that's fun. And on the same day that I have to move out of here, I will be off to London to have my second endocrinology appointment to start um, hormone replacement therapy. So those are two things that are going to change my life massively. And if I am blasé about them, it's because I've known they're coming for a long time, even if there is still that terror of knowing that these are big, giant unknowns in my life. And what happens once the monster arrives is anybody's guess. The context of the monster, therefore, in the dream is very important in terms of signifying what it represents. You know, the monster was moving towards my home, therefore indicating an imminent transformation in terms of my home life, my domestic existence. In around midsummer, I had another monster dream, which was on an even more colossal scale. I dreamt I was down in a sewer. And again, a sewer is a Plutonic symbol because a sewer is a modern day underworld. You know, a sewer is where we put all the things that we don't want to face or which we consider to be too dirty and squalid to deal with our civilized life. It's where our shit goes, for fuck's sake. And therefore it's also a symbol of where our psychological shit goes too, where all of those nasty repressed contents go down to loom, lurk, conspire, and fester. And in this dream, for some reason, I was down in this sewer and I found the dead body of all of these monsters. And the reason these monsters had died is that they had all just swallowed one another. There was just like this long kind of Uroboric sequence of these monsters that had all died just eating each other, all stuck in each other's mouths in progressively bigger forms. Naturally, when that dream occurred at the time, I didn't know what it represented. Very shortly after that, I went through a long period where it was just almost one thing after another was occurring in my life. Multiple people close to me were either dead or moribund, approaching death, or diagnosed with some kind of critical illness. It's when I was first told I had to move out of here, when the relationship I was in started failing and then ultimately failed, and being a symbol of those monsters all suffocated on one another, it was a sign of just things really feeling like they were ganging up on me. So that's giving things a very different context. The word monster itself has a Latin origin, which roughly means to forewarn, to foretell. So the idea that a monster can be an omen of some kind, an augury for something that's happening in the future, of something potentially perilous, is one with an ancient pedigree. And I would probably talk about that in relation to maybe actual cryptozoology and monsters in another video. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it there. I will say that if you're someone who is interested in investigating your own dreams, one of the best things you can do is to keep a dream diary. The more regularly you write your dreams down, even if it's just little scraps, the more you trigger your mind to remember them, but the more you can begin to see emerging patterns and how they might parallel with things going on in your actual life. If any of you would like me to talk about any other dream symbols, please let me know, and please like, subscribe, and share.